Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right guys, I'm back. It's Tuesday, September 15th, and it is 9:29 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to get into the news. I apologize to you guys for being off the last 2 nights, but I have had a bug of some sort and have felt so sick, flu-like symptoms and the whole 9 yards. So anyway, I am feeling somewhat better, but not all the way there yet. So I'm going to muddle through this, and I've got 2 videos tonight, but I can't promise you that I'll be able to do both of them. We'll see how it goes after one, and if I'm still feeling okay, I will do the second. All right, and I do have people to thank. Aaron Steele, he donated via coffee, and he's giving a monthly amount. Thank you so much, Aaron. Journey and Ron, they are the founders of Rafa Rub, which is a phenomenal product. If any of you are interested, I think I'm going to be entering into a sponsorship with them. So you'll be hearing a little bit more about them. I'm not going to inundate you with advertising at all, but in fact, I've had the opportunity to advertise other people, and I haven't, because I just didn't want to. But this is a product. They sell cannabis related products actually, and they don't have THC in them, but really good. I use it as a rub for my back, and it works extremely well. You know, they sell the whole 9 yards actually. So anyway, they donated, so thank you very much. Donald Ziegler, thank you very much. And Rach and Chula the Boxer, that's a very familiar name, and she's giving a monthly amount. Thank you so very much. And Mary Sanders is also giving a monthly amount, and you are able to do that now via coffee. And the difference is that coffee does not keep even a penny. If you give $3, $6, $10, that's what comes to this channel. They don't keep anything. I pay a monthly amount, but it's actually a very small monthly amount, and you know, for them to do that. But actually anything that people give, 100% of that goes to the creator that you're giving it to. So anyway, that is that, and let's move into the news, because my gosh, I picked 2 really bad days to be sick, because there's so much happening, but we're going to try and get caught up here. So let's get into it. All right, now here's the first thing, and these are in no particular order. Most of them are fairly new, either today or yesterday. So anyway, this is from a website called Tell Me Now. It says, college professor, nothing wrong with murdering Trump supporters. Really? University of Rhode Island history professor is defending the apparent political murder of Aaron J. Danielson in Portland, Oregon. Conservative students on college campuses have to deal with indoctrination and intolerance from liberal professors. Imagine having a class with a professor who defends the murder of a conservative protester for political purposes. That's the reality of students at the University of Rhode Island. This isn't Dr. Eric Loomis's first time being exposed for advocating for violence against people with whom he has political differences either. In 2012, the history professor got backlash for demanding NRA executive Wayne LaPierre's head on a stick. A quick look at Loomis's Twitter account exposes the fact that he cannot handle dissent. Zara Zupkas with Young Americans for Freedom retweeted Loomis, pointing out that his hatred was being spewed, this hatred was being spewed by a college professor. So this is Zara Zupkas. She said, this is a history professor at the University of Rhode Island. And Eric Loomis writes, yeah, I mean, once Republicans figured out COVID wasn't going to affect people of color and the poor disproportionately, they stopped caring about doing anything about it. That is a blatant lie, and it's absolutely asinine, and especially for a professor who should know better. All right, and Loomis responded to the benign tweet by blocking Zupkus. He cannot handle a woman who thinks for himself, or herself rather, and Eric Loomis, and so Zupkus said, Eric Loomis, no fascist will intimidate me. Also Eric Loomis, when he gets intimidated, and down here, it says Eric Loomis blocked you, so I guess he's good at that, as most of them are. They can dish it out, but they sure can't take it. You know, they can say whatever they want, but if you call them on it at all, they just block you because they can't handle dissent. They can't. They're not able to have conversations like real grown-ups. So that's what they do. This is why intolerant people like him envelop themselves in the bubble of college campuses where their disgraceful behavior is accepted. Worse, he is shoving this hatred down the throats of students who need a passing grade to get through his class. Riots in Portland, Oregon. He recently discussed the death of Michael Reinhold on his lawyer's Guns Money blog. Reinhold is the Antifa member who is suspected of the Portland riot murder of Aaron J. Danielson, a Trump supporter and member of the Patriot Prayer. Reinhold was killed by authorities when they attempted to arrest him. And let's come down here. Loomis wrote in his September 4th blog post, why was Michael Reinhold killed? That he is under the assumption that police intentionally killed Reinhold without proper cause. In fact, he also elevated Reinhold to folk hero status as someone who did society a favor for killing Danielson, whom the professor labels as a fascist because he's conservative. Yeah. And this from Campus Reform. I'm extremely anti-conspiracy theory, but it's not a conspiracy theory at this point in time to wonder if the cops simply murdered him. The police is shot through with fascists from stem to stern. They were openly working with the fascists in Portland as they were in Kenosha, which led to dead protesters, Loomis continued. In the comments section of the blog post, one reader challenged Loomis by writing, Eric, he shot and killed a guy, referring to Reinhold. Loomis responded by saying, he killed a fascist. I see nothing wrong with it, at least from a moral perspective. He further added that tactically that's a different story, but you could say the same thing about John Brown. Loomis went on to compare Danielson to a slaveholder and Reinhold to an abolitionist. So what's great about assassinating random slaveholders, said liberals to John Brown, the college professor remarked. This guy's not too bright. Eric Loomis has defined himself as someone who is intolerant of differing opinions. In this instance, he advocates for murdering someone with whom he disagrees. Imagine being in Loomis's class and committing the crime of being conservative. Imagine reading your professor's blog and seeing him approve of the murder of someone for thinking as you do. That is the reality of many of our college students face. This is why many parents are wondering if college is even worth it anymore. Well, if people like that are occupying the professorships, then no, it's not worth it at all. You're better off to stay away, because there is lots of indoctrination in university, and you need to be able to be mature enough to be able to tell when you're being indoctrinated and when you're not. And a lot of really young people haven't discerned that, haven't developed that ability yet. So it's pretty wild that there are even people out there like that, but there are, and it's scary. And it's especially scary when they're teaching your children. All right, now let's go back. Lots more stuff here, lots more. And, sorry, I keep blinking. I have an eyelash in my eye or something. Anyway, let's look at this. Suspect starts 6 more brush fires, faces additional charges. A suspect arrested last evening for starting a brush fire was arrested again after he started 6 more small fires. Well, here's my question. Why, after he was arrested once for starting a brush fire, did they let him go? That would be the question on my mind. Excuse me. On Monday, September 14th, 2020, at 3:37 a.m., East Precinct officers were dispatched with Portland Fire and Rescue to a report of multiple fires burning along the west side of the I-205 freeway. Portland Fire and Rescue extinguished 3 of them, while passing community members put out the other 3. All were caught early. No one was injured and no structures were burnt. Officers located Domingo Lopez Jr. walking along the shoulder and arrested him. They seized a lighter as evidence. Excuse me for one moment here. I don't want to be coughing in your ear, that's for sure. Oh, it's good stuff, this coffee. Good, good stuff. All right. So, Lopez was transported to a hospital on a police officer hold for a mental health evaluation. He was issued citations for 6 additional counts of reckless burning. A suspect was arrested after using a Molotov cocktail to, and it says the original message below, a suspect was arrested after using a Molotov cocktail to start a small brush fire on Sunday, September 13th. East Precinct officers were dispatched to assist Portland Fire and Rescue with a brush fire in the 9600 block of East Burnside Street. Officers saw that a section of grass along the I-205 freeway was burning. Firefighters extinguished the fire. No one was injured and no structures were damaged. About an hour later, East officers were flagged down by a witness who pointed out the suspect in a nearby tent. Officers arrested the suspect, who confirmed he lit the fire with the device. Officers seized a plastic bottle with a wick as evidence. Officers booked Domingo Lopez, Jr., 45, into the Multnomah County Detention Center on charges of reckless burning and disorderly conduct in the second degree. Arson investigators are also doing follow-up to see if other charges are warranted. And then up here, you have him starting 6 more brush fires. So that would make 7 altogether. Yeah, and they want to tell us that it's global warming. It's climate change. Yeah. Well, I can't say that that could even be a little bit correct, because they have found all sorts of people and arrested them for starting fires, and they are going about it. They're leaving gas cans for them and everything else for these people to go and start fires in Oregon. And, well, in California, probably some are arson, probably some are, direct energy. We know all about that, but it's definitely not climate change. You know why I know that? Because the fires stop at the Mexican border and they stop at the Canadian border. That's a pretty good indication that it's not global warming or climate change, right? Because I don't know of any fires that respect, national borders. I don't know, unless these are completely special fires that they know somehow. Maybe they're sentient fires that they're able to think and feel. Who knows? But it's very, very curious because, conditions in the Seattle area, Portland, or Seattle, Oregon, there are very, very similar to the conditions just over the border in Canada. So why isn't that on fire? And what about Mexico? Why isn't that on fire? Well, we know, don't we? Yes, we do. All right. Has to do with an election, I think. And also, these places, they want that emergency money because they're broke. All Democrat areas, every single one of them. All right, so now let's look at the next item. All right, Atlantic op-ed, Democrats will riot if they lose. Therefore, Republicans should let Joe Biden win. Right. That, according to the Atlantic. Well, I don't think any of us think too much of the Atlantic. The Atlantic has published an op-ed that argues that law and order Republicans should vote for Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden because Democrats will riot if he loses, refusing to accept the results if President Trump wins re-election. So I guess that means that, they can pitch a fit and burn down our cities and riot and loot and everything, and we'll just have to give in to them, because if not, they'll riot. I don't think so. They took care of all the rioting and looting in Lancaster really quickly, because they arrested them all and made their bail. I don't know, it's like an ungodly sum. So anyway, and that took care of the rioting. Next night, no riots. Yeah. In an essay entitled "The Democrats May Not Be Able to Concede," Shadi Hamid writes, a loss by Joe Biden under these circumstances is the worst case, not because Trump will destroy America, he can't, but because it is the outcome most likely to undermine faith in democracy, resulting in more of a social unrest and street battles that cities, including Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, have seen in recent months. For this reason, strictly law and order Republicans who have responded in dismay to the scenes of rioting and looting have an interest in Biden winning, even if they could never bring themselves to vote for him. Right. In presidential elections, once is a fluke, twice is a pattern. I struggle to imagine how, beyond utter shock, millions of Democrats will process a Trump victory, a loss for Biden after having been the clear favorite all summer. Oh, please. These people, they've got to be smoking dope. Honestly, they have to be. Like, what planet are they on? Not this one. I don't know what planet they're on, but it's definitely not the one we're on. Unbelievable. I mean, he can't even get, he gets like 5-10 people in a room and it's a rally? Give me a break. Anyway, so let me see. I lost my point. I lost my place here, but I'll find it. A loss for Biden after having been the clear favorite all summer would provoke a mass disillusion with electoral policies as a means of change at a time when disillusion is already dangerously high. If Democrats can't beat a candidate as unpopular as Trump during a devastating pandemic and a massive economic contraction, then are they even capable of winning presidential election anymore? Democracy, after all, is supposed to self-correct after mistakes, particularly mistakes as egregious as electing Donald Trump, whose unfitness for the nation's highest office makes itself apparent with almost every passing day. I don't think they're in our America. I don't know. But yeah, Trump is definitely not massively unpopular at all, except with a few people that clearly have Trump derangement syndrome, but he's not unpopular by any stretch. And he's been nominated now for two Nobel Peace Prizes. Yeah, but this is just, honestly, if this were something that you were handing in to a professor for them to look at and kind of look at your points and all that, they would send it back and say this is faulty logic, very faulty logic, like for real. If they were, if they were a professor that was actually a good professor and not a liberal leaning professor. All right. For democracy to work, the loser of elections need to believe that they can win the next time around. Otherwise, their incentives to play the spoiler increase. A breakdown of democracy is always possible, but the country is more resilient than it may seem, and consolidated democracies seldom break down in any circumstance. That said, this is one of those propositions that is better left untested. Read the full op-ed here? No, I'd rather have my eyes dug out with spoons. I think I'll pass on that. The Atlantic was responsible for the story earlier this month, claiming that President Trump disparaged the troops, which has been refuted by over 20 witnesses, including critics like former National Security Advisor John Bolton. But that doesn't matter. They still run with it. It's disgusting. So anyway, there you've got it. They think that, that we should just let Joe Biden win. Otherwise, there's going to be, the children are going to throw their little temper tantrums. So let's just let Biden win. Not a chance. Not a chance. And why would Biden even think he had a chance of winning? That's probably what they're filling his head with. But, I don't even think he knows where he is half the time. So anyway, let's go back now. And let's look at this. Yeah, speaking of whether Joe Biden is fit, right. Biden makes no sense in Florida roundtable event, rambles about the second floor of the ladies' department. Yes, he did. 77-year-old Joe Biden on Tuesday made no sense during his roundtable event with veterans in Tampa, Florida. Biden wore a mask while he spoke, even though only 6 others participated, and they were all several feet away from each other. And there he is in his big round table, which really isn't round, is it? But, you know. You never see him in front of a crowd, do you? Because he can't draw a crowd. And even if he could draw a crowd, they wouldn't want him to, because then more people would know that he doesn't have a clue where he is, who he is, or even how to put a sentence together. At one point, Biden began to ramble about the ladies' department, you know, the thing. Because if you could take care, if you were a quartermaster, you can sure and hell take care of running you know, a department store thing, you know, where in the second floor of the ladies' department or whatever, you know what I mean, Biden said. Sure, we got it. Yeah, well, let's listen, shall we?
Because if you could take care, if you were a quartermaster, you can sure and hell take care of running a department store, where in the second floor of the ladies department, you know what I mean?
And this is who they want us to let win, so there's no more riots. Yeah, because that would be better than having him, getting rid of the riots would be better than having, him, I guess. I don't know. But here's the thing. I think that if Trump gets in, that he's more than capable of taking care of the riots if the Democrats would let him. And the only reason they won't let him is because then they have this narrative of, oh, look, this is Trump's America, all this violence, all this looting. Yeah. Because you don't see this in any Republican cities, do you? No. None. It's all Democrat. All right, and let's go back here and go to here. Yeah. Oh, they took it down already. I can't remember what it was now, but it was something good, and it had to do with Biden. But, you know how they have to whip out anything negative about Biden, and Twitter's going to, sweep it away like it never existed. But then Trump, he can't even get a message out because they just block him. Yeah, I don't know. Twitter is, they say they're not biased, but it's so ridiculous that even saying that is just so asinine. It's beyond ridiculous. Anyway, let's go back now and see what else we can get into. Now, this is very, very, very interesting article, and I've found it in 2 places now. So it's not just that this website is saying it. No, I've found it on others as well. Now, this is from today. Health Ranger warns America, we must beg God for forgiveness as a nation and pray for redemption or be overrun by Black Lives Matter demons. And this is what they're saying. Well, actually, I do believe that myself, because the Bible clearly says, if my people who are God's people, the people that call themselves by his name, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, but not just pray, turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. Now, I believe that as a Christian. Some of you are believers, some of you are not. But if you are a believer, you will probably share that sentiment. Anyway, let's look at this, because this is very, very curious. The crisis America is facing today isn't merely a current events crisis involving riots, arson, attacks on police, and extreme censorship of conservatives and Christians. It's much more than that. It's actually a spiritual war being waged across the planet, with left-wing demons rising up to try to destroy society, mass murder Christians around the world, silence all voices of reason, and burn down human civilization. This is further evidenced by the fact that Black Lives Matter leaders are heavily into witchcraft and Satanism. Now, newly released audio recordings reveal the occult practices, ancestor worship, African paganism, and literal witchcraft of at least one of the national group's co-founders, as well as the founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles chapter. Apparently, the entire George Soros-funded leadership of Black Lives Matter is involved in these practices as well. In the audio, Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrice Cullors, who boasted in a TV interview of being a trained Marxist, revealed that she is also consulting spiritual entities and allowing them to work through her. "I'm calling for spirituality to be deeply radical," she said. "We're not just having a social justice movement. This is a spiritual movement." Yes, a Black Lives Matter co-founder is actually summoning demonic spirit guides to work through her to destroy humanity. Here's the video mentioned by Newman. Now, I'm not sure how long this video is, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to play the whole thing, but let me see here. And I don't know if it's going to play or not. It's sitting and spinning. It's thinking about playing. All right. Well, I'm not having luck there. So anyway, let's come down here. It says these Black Lives Matter terrorists actually invite the demonic spirits into their body, and they often work with multiple infestations of demonic entities. In a recorded conversation with Cullors, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles founder and California State University professor of African Studies, Melina Abdullah, reveals more than she thought she should have. Maybe I'm sharing too much, but we've become very intimate with the spirits that we call on regularly. Right, she explained, like each of them seem to have a different presence and personality, you know. I laugh a lot with Waukesha, you know, and I didn't meet her in her body, right? I met her through this work. Now that she is a professor of African Studies, which has already morphed into an anti-human, anti-white indoctrination training system that's turning young human beings into Satan's soldiers for destruction and mass death, as Newman explains, talk show host and Christian attorney Abraham Hamilton III first aired the audio recording on August 19th during his show, The Hamilton Corner. His conclusion is that conversations prove top Black Lives Matter leaders are involved in witchcraft, summoning the spirits of the dead, and engaging in other satanic practices that are firmly condemned and strictly prohibited in the Bible. The solution to the rise of demonic leftists can only be found in God, and that makes sense. It is a spiritual war. The war we are facing in America today is not merely a kinetic war and not simply a culture war. It is a spiritual war being waged by openly demonic antichrist forces who worship death and beg evil spirits to give them the power to destroy. These people are called Antifa, or Black Lives Matter terrorists, and they have long since ceased to be human, as they are literally infested with demonic spirits. Well, that's interesting, because if you've seen some of the mugshots they've taken, I've asked myself, where are they finding these people? They look demonized. They really look demonized. They do not look like the type of people you're going to go and find at the grocery store and here and there. Well, not my local grocery store anyway. I don't know where you live, but anyway. While some of the actions of these demonic leftists can be countered with force, the greater answer to all this must come from God. Specifically, America must end its evil ways and beg God for forgiveness or be destroyed as a result of its collective sin. America's 60+ million abortion murders cannot be swept under the rug. They have unleashed an enormous ripple of evil, a kind of tearing at the fabric of the divine cosmos that has allowed Satan-worshipping demons to enter this realm and literally occupy the bodies of left-wing activists, many of whom welcome these demon forces as revealed above. And it says New York City is the epicenter of abortion murder and evil in America, which is why it's collapsing into a ghost town. If the Holocaust was a crime against humanity with 6 million murders, what should abortion be called with 60 million infant executions? The epicenter of this murder is New York City, which recently suffered extremely high death counts during the early days of the coronavirus bioweapon release. New York City is where left-wing Satan worshippers light up buildings to celebrate the mass murder of babies after they're born, straight-up infanticide, where state legislators cheer the laws that legalize such practices. Under the rule of the radical left, America has become a nation steeped in pure evil, abortion, transgenderism, Satan worship, witchcraft, and the overt destruction of property, life, and liberty. These are all signs of a demonic war being waged against America, a war that must be answered with the power of God. And this says, to save America, we must rise together in prayer and denounce the evil of our nation's advocacy of abortion, transgenderism, and pedophilia. We must beg God to forgive our nation and ask him to intervene to eliminate the demons that are rising in strength and number to destroy this nation and mass murder all who believe in Jesus Christ. Watch my important video here, which calls for national prayer and spiritual action to save America. And you know, I agree with that. I do believe we are in a spiritual battle. I think that it's becoming very, very evident to everyone, even those that really aren't necessarily religious in any sense, but they're seeing this. And I think that it's like, what is happening? And it happened so fast. So yes, I do believe that. I do believe that Black Lives Matter are working with demons. I've seen the mugshots of some of these people, and they do not look like reasonable human beings. And you cannot even have a conversation with these people because they'll just scream at you and respond with violence. So I don't know, but I happen to believe that this is so. All right, now let's come down here. Now, this is another interesting article, and I'm going to read this because I think it's important. Trump's secret weapon revealed. 14th Amendment allows the president to strip electoral college votes from states supporting censorship against voters, enables mass arrests of mayors, governors, and judges who support Black Lives Matter. And you know, personally, I believe that that is a domestic terrorist group, and I think that we are probably all on the same page where that is concerned. It's certainly not benefiting Black people at all. If it was, I would feel differently, completely differently. If the money was being collected to actually help Black people, then yes, I'd be like all for it. I'd be like, yes, all right. If it's going to go towards scholarships or home ownership or whatever, then great. But it's not. It's all going into the Democratic coffers. And most of it is going to Joe Biden's campaign. So he can't really say that he's against Black Lives Matter or against what they're doing when he's accepting that kind of money from them. Now, can he? Well, he can, but so anyway, the results of the 2020 election are already locked in. Trump wins, and he goes on to dismantle the corrupt, criminal Democrat Party that tried and failed to destroy America and replace it with a communist regime of left-wing authoritarian tyrants. How does Trump accomplish this? President Trump has a secret weapon that I've been talking about for several months in the Health Ranger report. Until recently, I didn't know the exact nature of the secret weapon, but was told by a highly reliable source that plans were already in place for Trump to defeat the Democrats and protect America from left-wing efforts to destroy this nation. Now we've been able to confirm the content of the secret weapon that will be invoked to save America. It's the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. And let's move down here. The 14th Amendment speaks directly to the powers of the federal government in dealing with officials, individuals, and states that are engaged in rebellion against the United States of America. Sound familiar? Specifically, the 14th Amendment grants the U.S. President the power to arrest and indefinitely hold all public officials, including mayors, governors, state legislators, federal judges, and law enforcement officials who support rebellion against the United States or who have given aid or comfort to the enemies of America. 2, eliminate House of Representatives positions for California and other states which are engaged in supporting big tech censorship platforms that are supporting rebellion against the United States of America and abridging the right of voting age citizens to participate in elections via censorship. This implies that electoral college votes would be also proportionately reduced in these states. It would also apply to states like Oregon, which are reportedly funding war encampment installations that house insurrectionists who are unleashed each night to attack federal buildings and federal law enforcement officers. It also would eliminate all federal financial... I'm sorry, I'm taking off my socks. Yes, I am. All right. That feels so much better when your feet are free. I hate to have my feet imprisoned. All right. Anyway, so it would also eliminate all federal financial support for cities and states which are engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States. Section 3 specifically states that all claims of federal money obligations to the states shall be held illegal and void. In essence, the Fourth Amendment grants American citizens equal protection under the law, but for public officials or states which are engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States, those equal protections are revoked. The Democrats already know all this, which is why they are pursuing a plan of election chaos, hoping to throw the entire election process into mass confusion, from which they plan to attempt an illegal coup to eliminate Trump from office and claim political power over the nation. Now, we know that's what they're planning. We know that. They've made it abundantly clear. I mean, these people are not that smart to be able to, keep it under the wire, under the radar. We're not dealing with the brightest bulbs on the marquee by any stretch of the imagination. So let's look down here. It should be rather obvious that at this very moment, California, Oregon, Washington, New York, Illinois, and many other states are engaged in open rebellion against the United States, and that thousands of public officials within those states, mayors, governors, state legislators, police chiefs, etc., are granting aid or comfort to the rebellion. Under the 14th Amendment, Trump merely needs to declare an insurrection. Then he can have Mayor Lightfoot, Chicago, Mayor Wheeler, Portland, Mayor Durkin, Seattle, and even de Blasio, New York City, arrested and removed from office for violating their oaths of office. All these mayors and many more have taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, but they have violated their oaths, and under the 14th Amendment, that means they have nullified their own right to equal protection under the law. Because they violated the U.S. Constitution and actively engaged in rebellion against the United States, in other words, they no longer enjoy the benefits of protections under the Constitution. In addition, President Trump can eliminate congressional House seats for states that support rebellion, reducing their apportionment in the House. This means the state's electoral college votes are also reduced, since those numbers are based on the number of House plus Senate representatives for each state. This is based on the fact that these states are aiding the efforts of big tech to deny the rights of conservatives to participate in elections and voting via politically targeted censorship and voter suppression tactics now routinely used by Google, Facebook, and other tech giants. Section 2 of the 14th Amendment specifically addresses voter suppression. It says that states which support the suppression of the ability of citizens to participate in voting will lose a portion of their own seat in Congress, as well as the Electoral College representation. Right now, the most overt and obvious voter suppression is being carried out by big tech platforms such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, and YouTube, but similar censorship is being undertaken by Microsoft, Apple, Vimeo, and other tech giants. These companies are granted aid and comfort by numerous left-wing cities and states, which often grant these companies property tax deferments and legal protections as legitimate investigations or prosecutions. In other words, states like California are actively protecting big tech platforms that are suppressing voter participation via politically targeted censorship, and this puts California in violation of Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. Furthermore, President Trump can arrest and imprison all state and federal judges who have granted aid or comfort to insurrectionists by, for example, releasing them without charge after they were arrested for participating in riots or assaulting law enforcement officers. This means all Soros-funded district attorneys and anti-America judges who have supported the insurrection can now be arrested and removed from office in one fell swoop. Remember, that Democrat officials in Oregon, Washington, California, New York, Illinois, and other states have overtly granted protections and in some cases actual funding to Black Lives Matter terrorists. This means these officials are complicit in rebellion against the United States. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment states that they cannot hold any public office, civil or military. Here's the language, emphasis added. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president. I hate when it does that. All right, where was I? No person shall, I got to start again now. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Finally, Section 4 of the 14th Amendment says, neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in the aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States. This means that cities and states which are suffering extreme economic losses due to their support for rioting and insurrection, such as Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, etc., cannot make any claim to federal money to reimburse them for their losses. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're wanting money for their losses. And Trump has said, nope. And I am so glad that he's got the kahunas that he has. Anyway, their losses have been incurred as a result of the support for acts of insurrection and rebellion against the United States, and thus the United States has no obligation to reimburse them for such losses. All this explains why Nancy Pelosi recently declared President Trump and the GOP to be enemies of the state. This is the kind of language that would only be used by the Speaker of the House if they intended to attempt a violent coup followed by mass exterminations of their political opponents. And make no doubt about it, these people like Nancy Pelosi would do that in a heartbeat. Yeah. To initiate all this, Trump merely needs to officially declare an insurrection is underway. The reason Democrats went insane when Trump won the 2016 election is because holding the office of the president grants that person access to all the powers that the U.S. Constitution and subsequent law confers to the president. One of those powers is the power to declare an insurrection against the government. Such a declaration unleashes enormous powers of government, which are then directed by the president against the domestic enemies, which are waging war against the United States. It is now rather obvious that we are already in that war, which is being waged by radical, extreme, left-wing terrorists on a nightly basis. That war is supported and aided by tech giants who censor all critics of the insurrectionists while aiding their acts of treason by allowing their platform to be used to coordinate attacks against America. Left-wing mayors, governors, judges, state representatives, and other oath-swearing officials are also openly engaged in insurrection against the United States, and Trump's declaration of an open insurrection will enable them all to be arrested and removed from power. This is what Trump must do to save America. It is unlikely that he will declare an insurrection before the election. However, this action seems likely to occur after the election. So, and this says why Trump should declare an insurrection the day before the election. Now, I know this is taking a long time, but it's important because this is on every single one of our minds because we're all very nervous about this upcoming election. And if you're not nervous about it, you're not paying attention because, and I know it's in the Lord's hands and so forth. I understand that. But these people are, well, they have a plan to stage a violent coup. And by gosh, they'll do it if they're not stopped. Strategically speaking, we urge President Trump to declare the insurrection before the election because this would allow him to challenge the Electoral College votes from states which are supporting open rebellion against the United States for all the reasons noted above. Even if Trump declares the insurrection just one day before the election, this grants him a basis from which he may challenge the Electoral College votes from insurrectionist states like California. It also grants Trump the opportunity to arrest all the corrupt left-wing officials the day after the election, shutting down their criminal attempts to counterfeit ballots after the fact that try to win by cheating in the weeks following the election itself. Trump can largely shut down that effort by simply declaring an insurrection and arresting all those treasonous actors the day after the election. They cannot counterfeit more ballots. After all, they're sitting in jail. Yeah, well, that would be good news. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this because it's long, but what I am going to do is I am going to provide you with a link to it because you might like to look this over for yourself. I happen to think, now, this is from September 6th, so it's a little bit old, but it's very, very good. I just found this today in my travels, and so I thought I would bring it to you because it kind of put my mind to rest a little bit, thinking, yeah, okay, he could declare an insurrection because, after all, isn't that what this is? I mean, it's getting pretty bad. So, yeah, I think that would make us all feel a little better if he declared an insurrection and arrested these people. I know what's going to be said, but if it would save the country, yeah, I'm all for it. Okay, now let's come back here. And I'm going to skip a few of these things. Yeah, this is pretty important right here. All right. Today, Joe Biden visited Florida, a key swing state in the upcoming presidential election. During his speech, he said something that Kamala Harris just said during a campaign appearance. They both used the term Harris-Biden administration in their appearances. Is this a message that Biden will be a placeholder president who will be a puppet for Harris, Bernie Sanders, and other far-left Democrats? Well, it's interesting that Kamala said that. Kamala's a little bit of a control freak, and I thought, well, maybe she's, just wishful, and she's making herself out to be more important than she really is. But now that Biden has said it, something's up, as far as I'm concerned. Something's up. Hang on here. So, yeah, I think there's no way that Biden could hold the job of a president. There's no way he could. I think it's completely evident to everyone, well, at least anyone paying attention. So, let's come down here. The slip up from Biden comes directly after his running mate Kamala Harris said a similar thing yesterday, as previously reported by 100% Fed Up. Vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris just let the truth slip on what a Biden administration would look like. There has been speculation that Joe Biden is a placeholder for Harris and other Democrats who will have a much greater role in influencing policy. The Biden-Sanders plan is an integral part of Biden's policy. Joe Biden has enlisted far-left Democrats, AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Beto O'Rourke, to help him with policy. They've pulled him to the far left on several important agendas like global warming via the Green New Deal, gun rights, and raising taxes. Harris let the cat out of the bag yesterday. Kamala Harris lets the truth slip. A Harris administration together with Joe Biden, and that is exactly what she said. Bernie Sanders has also been influential in Biden's policy. Mark Levin warned Americans recently about the Biden-Sanders plan. Mark Levin is warning Americans about what's happening and what's going to happen if America if Joe Biden wins in November. In the video below, he goes through the comments by Bernie Sanders to explain what his underlying message is to his radical supporters. In the second video below, Levin lists the radical policies in the Biden-Sanders plan that he says reads like the Communist Manifesto. So, I'm not sure how long these are, and I don't even think we can get to them. No. So, but I thought, let's just read this. The far left is dragging Biden across the finish line in this election, but Biden has already spoken out about his policies. Biden is on the record in support of the Green New Deal, which is more about socialism than climate. Redistribution of wealth by using your hard-earned money via taxes will skyrocket under Biden. Biden has already said he will raise taxes. Biden recently said he wants unlimited immigration and is for open borders. Biden is the darling of the teachers union and will throw money at them if he's elected. Biden will follow the movement to take funds away from our police force and distribute it to social justice causes. Biden will move to a single-payer system in healthcare. The socialist movement will use Biden as their puppet all the way if he's elected. Greg Gutfeld recently discussed Biden's economically terrifying plan if elected. Well, I think everything about Joe Biden is terrifying, including his plan. I thought they would have the video here where he slips and says Harris-Biden administration. I think that's very interesting now that both of them have said that. I don't think that's a coincidence. All right, so let's come down here. This by Matt Walsh. There was one night of rioting in Lancaster. The police showed up, arrested the criminals, and now the judge has set the bail for rioters at $1 million. Swift response, harsh penalties, problem solved, no more riots. Now, excuse me, why can't it work like that? I've got to put this my Portland and these places. Well, I'll tell you why. Because of the people in charge of those places. They don't want the riots to stop. If they did, they would have been stopped already. All right, and let's look at this. Yes. Says, no, he's not in a field. He's 8 minutes from his basement, standing behind a building, reading from a prompter, completely staged. Well, was there any doubt about that? And then there was that poor grasshopper that wouldn't leave him alone. So there he is, and he looks like he's out somewhere. Yeah, 8 minutes from his house. That's where he is. And standing behind a building. Right. And there he is. There's the, and the few staff members that are there, or I don't know if they're staff or if they're media. But look at this. And then there's a Secret Service guy way over there. And of course, there's the teleprompter. You didn't think he was just standing there in a field winging it, did you? I mean, we know he can't go off teleprompter. There's no way. It would be a disaster. So that's what we have with Joe Biden. And he still, even with the teleprompter, he still looks stunned. And I don't mean to be mean to him, because I know that he's not well. I think it's incredibly cruel that they're doing this to him. It's elder abuse. And to me, that tells me everything I need to know about the Democrats, that they would parade him up there just as a placeholder, which is what he is, and, knowing how ill he is. And he is ill. So there you go. And let me see, I thought there was something else here, but maybe not. Let's go on. All right, and let's come down here. All right, yes, and as if we didn't already dislike the media, here's another reason. This by David Riaboy, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but says hacks at CNN, no mention of Middle East peace, White House event with large crowd, little social distancing. They didn't even mention the Middle East peace deal, which is historical, unprecedented. But CNN, no, they don't want anybody to know about that Trump is actually achieving things that are worthwhile. They don't want anyone to know that he's been nominated twice for the Nobel Peace Prize. No, so all they said is White House event with large crowd, little social distancing. They can't give him even an inch. That's how nasty they are. Can you imagine? That's what all they said about this big, huge event. Like unprecedented, historical, world-changing. And they say White House event with large crowd, little social distancing. That's all they said. Sickening. Absolutely, positively sickening. I will never, ever, ever watch CNN. Ever. I mean, I stopped watching it, well, quite a while ago now. But even if I'm somewhere where they have it on, there's no way I'd watch it because I can't believe anything that comes out of their mouths. Nothing. And they've done that to themselves. It's not because of anything Donald Trump has said. It's because, you know, we'll see it with our own eyes, and then CNN will do something stupid like this. I mean, it's just ridiculous. All right. Now, this from the GOP. You may not hear this from the mainstream media. It shouldn't say you may not hear this. It should say you won't hear this from the mainstream media. President Donald Trump's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize twice for his unprecedented peacemaking efforts. So there you go. And I do think that they are historic and unprecedented. So let's take a look at this. Authorities arrest 4 in connection to possible arson fires along West Coast. 2 of the suspects remain unidentified, and authorities dismiss potential political affiliations. So, very interesting, but you know how they'd like us to believe that all these fires are just climate change? Yeah, right. Like we're some kind of idiots. So anyway, I'm not going to go into this, but I just want you to know that there are people being arrested, you know, for arson, but then they're trying to tell us that it isn't arson, it's climate change. Yeah. And they want us to believe them. Unreal. I think Donald Trump should have some sort of media that the White House is in charge of, where you could hear the real news. I mean, I'm sure there'd be some spin there too, but not like CNN. All right. Now, yeah, let me see how long I've been going here. Wow, doesn't seem like that long. Well, say hello to Xander. Xander popped by. He's eyeing the window there. He's thinking, I hear me some crickets out there and some frogs too. Is that what you're hearing? Yes. Turn around and look. Look right there. Look. Xander. He knows what look means. Look, 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 Xander. Look up here, up here. Nope. Nope. Cats. You know. They can be jerks, but I love them anyway. All right, so I'm going to do one more story, and then I am going to get this uploaded, and I think I'm going to do another video. I think I'm feeling all right. Okay, so let's look at this, because this was literally gobsmacking. I don't even know another word. Gobsmacking to me. Protesters demand cops let themselves be stabbed or shot. Now, what other job in the entire world would there be where people would demand that you let yourself be stabbed or shot? These people they're not high on IQ or education or common sense or logic. If the nation's police officers walked off the job today, it would be hard to blame them. Sunday's anti-cop riots in Lancaster, Pennsylvania have made the current de facto rules of engagement clear. Officers may never defend themselves against lethal force if their attacker is a minority. They should simply accept being shot or stabbed as penance for their alleged racism. In Lancaster, an officer responded to a domestic violence call at a residence where a man had stabbed 4 people last year. As the officer approached the house, a female escaped out of the front door. A man, the suspect from the previous slashings, then emerged and ran at the officer, brandishing a knife over his head. The officer shot him, as the officer was, by all appearances, legally authorized to do so to stop the threat of deadly force. 27-year-old Ricardo Munoz died from the response from the community. Died? It says died from the officer's gunfire. I knew there had to be another something I was missing there. The response from the community, and look at this guy. Let me see. I'm going to show you this because this was taken from the cop's camera. So it shows you exactly what he was dealing with. And this guy is brandishing a knife, running for him like a, I don't know, like a demon. Here's the woman. There's a woman going to come out of the house, escaping the house.
Get back, get back.
Now, what would you have done? This is what the officer turned around and saw. This man looks demonic here, like seriously. And you know, I don't think he was kidding around about that he was going to kill that officer. No, but yeah, the community got upset about that somehow. I mean, I know if I were the officer, I would have killed that man. I wouldn't have wanted to, but I would have. And I think any officer looking at that would say the same thing. The response from the community after this summer of lethal cop hatred. Hang on here. I don't know what it's doing. The response from the community after this summer of, oh, for heaven's sakes. There we go. After their summer of lethal cop hatred was predictable, riots pelted Lancaster cops with bricks, glass bottles, and sharp projectiles ripped from road barricades. They smashed the windows of police cruisers, the downtown police precinct, the post office, cafes, and stores. They torched a dumpster dragged from another part of the city. They pulled street signs and bike racks out of sidewalks to use against the police. Such anarchy with its photogenic arson is just the latest chapter in the violence that is now routinely directed at officers using ordinary law enforcement activities as well as during riots. On August 26, a driver in the Bronx attacked two officers who had asked him to move his car from a fire hydrant, the Post reported. In June, a Baltimore cop was shot in the stomach while trying to break up an illegal house party. In Chicago, officers seeking to arrest drive-by shooters are assaulted and cursed at. And now in Compton, California, two sheriff deputies are hanging on to life after having been shot in the face while sitting in their parked patrol car. And by the way, these monsters went and stood outside the hospital, as you know, hoping and praying that they would die. That's what they were wanting these two police officers to die. Can you imagine? This murderous chaos is hardly surprising. Virtually the entire of the Democratic political class stayed silent this summer as cops became punching bags for criminals and anarchists. Instead, Democratic officials and their media mouthpiece droned on about the lethal threat to blacks allegedly posed by police officers, a narrative utterly belied by the facts about police shootings and black crime. Mayors and district attorneys vowed to ignore misdemeanor arrests so as to avoid prosecuting black criminals. And how is that fair? Until our political class repudiates that false narrative about police racism, we cannot expect officers to continue business as usual. They are already pulling back from proactive policing, understandably, having been told endlessly that such policing is racist. Homicides and shootings are spiraling out of control nationally. Every attack on a police officer is an attack on civilization itself. We are in the process of losing any possibility of civil peace. That is so true. And really, I do not see in the situation in Lancaster how that police officer could have done anything but what he did. What was he supposed to do? Just outrun the guy? Until what? They're taught to stop the threat. That's what he did. So anyway, let's come back here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this now. And I will come back with another video. I'll get this uploaded and on its way to you. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you listening. You guys constantly blow me away with your kind comments and your donations and the support of this channel overall. Just, I know there's so many people that pray for the channel as well, and I appreciate that very, very much. I need it. So, and anyone doing truth telling needs it. Anyone out there that you see that is telling the truth, pray for them, because I'm telling you, it's getting harder and harder and harder. So that's it for tonight, and I'll be back. Actually, it's not it for tonight. It's just it for this video. I'll be back tonight. And you guys stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and please keep seeking truth. Good night.